안녕하세요. 뇌과학박사 장동선입니다. 지금 세상이 정말 빠르게 변하고 있죠. AI와 로봇의 세상, 영화 속에서 소설 속에서나 보던 세상이 요즘 뉴스를 보면 하루하루가 다르게 우리 삶 속에 들어오고 있습니다. 그래서 정말 우리 아이들을 앞으로 어떻게 키워야 되지? 직장이라는 게 존재하지? 미래가 어떻게 변할까? 많은 사람들이 불확실한 미래에 대해서 두려움을 가지고 있기도 하고 또 이 변화에 적응하지 못하는 시기인데요. AI와 여러 미래 기술들이 우리 삶 속에 들어오고 있는 지금은 우리 뇌를 어떻게 활용해야 잘 활용할 수 있을까? 이 부분에 대한 질문을 많이 가지고 계실 텐데 오늘은 그 질문들에 한번 답을 찾아보는 그러한 시간을 가지고자 합니다. 그래서 오늘은 이러한 변화에 대해서 이야기하기 가장 좋은 인물을 모셔봤는데요. 저의 오랜 친구이자 구글의 최고 혁신 전도사를 10년 넘게 맡아왔던 프레데릭 페르트 박사를 모셨습니다. 구글의 최고 혁신 전도사, Chief Innovation Evangelist를 오랫동안 맡아오셨던 분이고요. 여러분이 잘 알고 있는 구글의 업무 방식, 20대 80 법칙, 이거 들어보셨을 겁니다. 내 시간의 20%는 업무와 아무 상관없는 일을 해도 된다 라고 놓아줬더니 그 20%의 시간 동안에 혁신의 80%가 생겨나는 결과를 만들어낸 이 새로운 제도를 도입한 인물이기도 하고요. 미국 스탠퍼드 대학교 D스쿨에서 10여 년 넘게 혁신과 창의성에 관련된 내용들도 진행을 했고 United Nations, FBI, 수없이 많은 정부기관, 국제기구에서도 혁신을 어떻게 만드는가에 대한 강의와 워크숍을 진행해온 인물입니다. 저희 대학교 동기동창이자 구글의 전 최고 혁신 전도사 프레데릭 페르트 박사를 모셨습니다. I'm so happy to have you here, Frederick. It's great to see you here.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Frederick. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Tom.
So would you introduce yourself briefly to our viewers?
안녕하세요. My name is Frederik Pferd, and I'm super glad that I can join you here today to talk about something that I think, all care about, and that is your future.
It's one of my favorite topics, talking about the future.
Mine too.
So we see a really fast-changing world these days, right? I mean, I used to expect new changes every year, but these days, change is not happening once a year because change is actually coming out every week. Mm-hmm. For normal people in everyday life, the fast-changing world might be a stress. It could create a lot of anxiety and will I be able to survive the next 40, 50 years? So people are looking for answers. So how should I live? What is the way I can prepare myself for the future?
So most people, I think, are bracing for what's happening next. They're literally in this mode of like, oh my God, like there's all this change happening. I think instead what we should do is we should make what's going to happen next best. And that is something in our control.
How can I make it better?
By asking a different question. And that is not the question, what will the future bring? And you're looking at predictions like the weather predictions, the stock market predictions, technology predictions, whatever it is. But you actively ask yourself the question, what future do I want to create? And I think that's very powerful because now we're shifting the conversation about the future towards the conversation about my future.
Yeah, I really like that part in the book because futurists or many scholars talk about the future. But in this book, you're saying it doesn't matter. You think about your future, your very personal future. And I really like that approach because every brain's purpose is actually preparing ourselves for the future and how can I adapt in a future world.
I think our brain tricks us sometimes, right? Where we try to plan too much for the future, right? We all plan our vacations or our next steps in our careers, but I think planning is the wrong approach when it comes to the future, right? I think preparing for the future, preparing your relationship with the future, I think is a better approach. Because in the book, as it says, Future Ready Mind, it's about 6 principles that help you to make the future you want a reality. So the first question you have to ask yourself is like, what future do you want?
That's right.
And I think everybody can ask themselves the question like, what future do I want to create? And how do I want to feel in the future? Do I want to feel more connected in the future? Well, the great thing about this is that it shifts your focus from the outside, where we think about the future as a technology or politics or a job or whatever it is. We think about the future as something that starts from the inside. Right? We always think just about the future as something where we say, what will happen tomorrow or what will happen in the next 10 years? If we ask ourselves, what can I imagine today about the future that I want to create? We are practicing imagination. We're training our muscles to really try to come up with different versions of the future that we want to see happening and actually make happen.
This is super important because there are studies showing thinking about the future in this multiple perspective. So that's a great thing. Some people's brain are focused on the past. What I did wrong in the past, or I should have done this or that. That is not giving you the right mindset to go for the future. But if you open up your mind to think about the future, actually it changes your brain just by doing it. I also emphasize we need to open up the range of thoughts we can think about and be more embracing, be more open about what happens in the world, because only in that way you gain more power and more motivation to change things. So in the book you talk about future-ready mind. Actually you're talking about a mindset people need to create a future, which is unreserved openness. Because I think it's so fascinating, but it's also, on the other hand, difficult to practice, but so important.
Yes, for me, openness is something very powerful, right? We have that metaphor that only an open hand can grasp the new, right? And it's the same for your mind. Only an open mind is ready for something new. And it doesn't come naturally, right?
It's very difficult for many people. It was difficult for me too, right?
Absolutely. If you go to a restaurant, right, the default choice that most people make is first go to the same restaurant over and over, right? Because we know it has been a good restaurant, or like we know what food is served and so forth, right?
And then you choose the same food. Pizza margherita.
Exactly. Then you would actually choose bulgogi or bibimbap, right? Like always the same item, right? But that's not openness, right? That is actually the opposite. Because what you're doing is you're not opening yourself for a new idea, for a new taste or whatever it is. And so you don't learn anything. What you can do instead is go to a different restaurant, right? And even take a different path. Even if it's the same restaurant, pick another item, because that is practicing openness, and see what opportunities and possibilities that will actually allow you to.
But the reason you don't do it is, if you go to 10 restaurants, maybe 7 or 8 times, you're going to be disappointed. So people choose the one they already went because they know, oh, the food is good there. That's why they do it. But if you go to every different restaurants, you are going to be disappointed many times.
I think it's the opposite, because you can only be disappointed if you have a certain expectation. And usually we connect that expectation with a past experience. So if I go to the same restaurant 10, 15, 20 times, I have a certain expectation, right? And if that expectation is not met, right, I'm unhappy. I'm dissatisfied. If you go to a new restaurant, you don't have any expectations because you don't know. And so if you're unreserved open, right, you allow everything to happen. Everything that's going to happen to you is a new experience. And appreciating that, I think, is something that we all can learn.
If you practice that, it changes your mind to be more future ready?
It changes your mind to be more future ready and to see more opportunities. And I think everybody likes to have more opportunities in their future, right?
And the interesting thing in a situation is usually people act in patterns, as you said. It could be hatred, it could be aggression, it could be something, right? But if you go on ungone way, it's a way no one reacted like that before, the brain has no plan how to deal with it. So you have to generate a new pattern. So I think openness is great, because you don't react in a way which was pre-programmed or already experienced, but you have to react in a way which is a new way to go. And I think that's exactly why you emphasize future-ready mind needs unreserved openness, because we don't know what future will come.
Exactly.
By practicing the openness, you somehow take the lead of the situation instead of letting the situation control you.
Absolutely. Because an open mind gives you opportunities. It gives you new perspectives, new ideas, and those are very relevant because that allows you to also choose different futures that you want to choose from, right? Where do you want to go and what future do you want to create? There's two things that are very interesting that you mentioned. The first one is the difference between reacting and responding. Sometimes we are in situations that happen to us and we immediately react. Usually we have this flight or freeze response, right? A very natural response. We either run away or we fight back or we just freeze in the moment, right? We don't do anything. But I think there's a fourth one, right? And that is responding wisely. That is something that only a trained mind can do, right? If you're prepared for the future, then you can respond in a better way to whatever is going to happen to you. An example might be a couple of years we had wildfires approaching our house in California. And so we could see the wildfires coming very close, about a mile distant from our house. And it was not looking good. We thought they're going to definitely burn down our house. So the police officer came over, and in 10 minutes we needed to leave our house. So my immediate reaction was I was trying to use the hose to water down the house to protect it from the fires, right? Which is actually impossible. My response when I thought about it was I cannot control the wildfires, but I can control my inner attitude, how I show up for my kids, for my family, and what we're going to do next. So what we did is we believe the wildfires will not burn our house. Let's stay positive, let's stay optimistic, and control the things that we actually can control, and that is our inner attitude, our attitude towards the future. So we have usually two areas, right? The one area is an area of concern, right? The other area is an area of creation. The area of concern are things that happens in the outside world. It's what other people do to me, right? It's mostly politics or things that are really outside of my control. In the area of creation, it's something that I have full control over, which is my own opinion, my actions, and my inner attitude. And I think sometimes we focus too much on the area of concern because that creates anxiety, that creates worries in our mind and so forth. If we focus on the area of creation and what we actually control, which is our attitude, our actions, then we actually have more power because then we can actually choose a path forward that we want to see happening. Try to not focus on the area of concern too much because that's the outside world. Try to focus on the area of creation, that's the inside world that you have full control over. And think about what do you want to create that allows you to make the next best step for your future.
So I have a similar metaphor. I tell people, what do you think of your life? And if you imagine it in your head, in your brain, then usually people think something like, oh, life is a theater act. And I'm an actor, suddenly being on stage. And if life is over, the stage is over, right? And you think like, oh, I have my text to read. I have to do this because I'm an actor. But I didn't choose this act. I didn't choose this stage. Oh, damn. Like that's what often people think. And what I'm telling them is, but think differently. It's your stage. Whatever text you have to read, whatever role is given to you, it's your stage. Speak the text you want to speak, create the movements you want to create, because as long as you are on the stage, which is called life, you can do whatever you want. So you are not just an actor, you are the director, you are the writer of your stage. And I think this is exactly what you said about the area of concern, the area of creation. You are thinking, oh, this stage, it must be like that. If you let go of that thought, you can actually be yourself, enjoy your play on stage.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Sometimes we focus too much on the audience, right? Trying to change the audience, trying to change the opinions of people, and so forth. It's not possible, right? The only thing you can change is how you show up, how you act, what you're saying, how you're saying it, right? And I think that's very important that we don't focus on the outside world and other people too much. Focus on what do you want to say? How do you want to feel on this stage, right? How do you want to make other people feel as well, right? That's in your control. How the other people respond, and that is outside of your control.
We talked about how to create the future we want, but especially for the Korean readers, because Korea is very sensitive to change and trends and high competition. So especially for the Korean readers, what kind of message did you want to give in this book?
I think there's probably three things that I want to emphasize. The first thing is we have to start believing that the future is going to be a better one, right? I think that's the first thing. I deeply believe that. And I think throughout history, we've seen that the future always has been a better one for us people, right?
Okay, I think it's very important.
The second one is I want to help people to understand that the future is not something that starts tomorrow or starts out there. It starts from within. And the future is in your control more than you think, right? When we shift that perspective of thinking about the future in someone else's hands towards owning the future and saying, like, it's in my hand, right? I think we regain power, right? Power of shaping the future that we actually want to see happening. And the third one is, don't think about the future as something that has to be without fun. I also deeply believe that the future can be something fun, right? Something that we actually enjoy. So move away from that anxiety and that worry that always comes up, right? And we all have that, right? Because of our evolution built in a way that wants to protect us. So it always comes up with these scenarios that everything might go wrong. Tomorrow will be worse than today. But take control over your mind and tell yourself literally every day, the future is going to be something that I'm going to enjoy because I have control over it. I can choose which future I want to build. And then have fun while doing it.
Thank you so much, Frederick. I enjoyed each moment
Thank you. Me too. Yes.
of this conversation. I hope that many people can grasp that message of the future will be better and I can be a great part of it and I can make the future a better one. I think that's a message right now many people need. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So good to have you here.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
오늘 저의 오랜 대학교 때부터 친구 그리고 구글의 최고 혁신 책임자이기도 했던 프레데릭 페르트 박사님하고 퓨처 레디 마인드라고 하는 책의 내용에 대해서 이야기했고요. 우리 둘 다 대학교 때 사실 이렇게 공부 잘하고 말 잘 듣는 모범생이 아니라 항상 약간 반항아, 좀 이상한 애, 남다른 생각을 하는 애 이랬는데 지금 이렇게 20년, 30년이 지나서도 남다른 생각들을 가지고 책도 쓰고 소통할 수 있어서 또 기쁜 마음도 있었습니다. 여러분 모두 우리 미래가 더 나은 미래가 될 수 있게 함께 많이 노력했으면 좋겠고요. 다음 시간에 또 내내로 들어오도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.